this entity wasn't regulated or licensed in Gibraltar. It was incorporated in the British Virgin Islands, but as you mentioned, the majority of its investors we found were Gibraltarian, and many of them were politically well connected, in positions of influence over Gibraltar's financial services industry writ large. And one is a sitting member of Gibraltar's parliament as well. So many folks that I spoke to about this story told me that they felt this entity should have been regulated in Gibraltar. Fundamentally, what regulation is meant to be all about is protecting consumers, right? And if the majority of those investors and consumers were in Gibraltar, then it's not a very far leap to suggest that that they should be protected from this sort of thing. And it points to a wider discussion, which is an interesting one, and perhaps it's too in the weeds, but an interesting discussion as to how jurisdictions deal with this industry is very, international. It's very global by nature. And while an entity might not be licensed or regulated in any given jurisdiction, that entity can access customers in that jurisdiction. And it's, in the eyes of a lot of folks, incumbent on the regulators in that country to protect their consumers from the risks that may be associated from this kind of business. And, I think it also, Gibraltar has pitched itself as this hub for crypto activity for quite some time now. And what's interesting to me is that this is, again, talking about a growing list of, a story that seems to repeat itself in to varying degrees in certain jurisdictions. The Bahamas with FTX is one example. Terra Labs, which is a company now infamous in the crypto industry, ran through the streets of Singapore, and Singapore sort of, had to deal with its own fallout once that company collapsed as well. There is a conversation to be had here about how different jurisdictions that are seeking to embrace this industry have been dealt some significant blows, either to their reputation or, things that undermine the way that they approach handling this industry.